The first time I saw him, my entire world froze. Not because he looked intimidating in that expensive charcoal suit, or because the entire office stood silent when he walked by, but because I recognized him instantly. The man whose photographs I had seen 100 times on my girlfriend's phone, the man whose name she never spoke without a shadow crossing her face. His eyes locked onto mine, sharp, assessing, and in that moment I realized something that sent a chill through my body, stronger than any winter wind. My girlfriend's ex was my new boss, and he knew exactly who I was. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your one click truly means the world and helps us bring you more stories like this. My name is Ethan Parker, and up until that day, I thought life was finally starting to make sense. I had a girlfriend I loved beyond words. Lily, someone whose gentle spirit helped me reclaim parts of myself I didn't even know were damaged. I had finally landed a position at a respected firm after years of financial struggle. I was proud, I was hopeful, and then the universe decided to throw a storm straight at me. The first week under my new boss, Adrian Cole, felt like walking through a minefield. I could feel his gaze lingering on me longer than necessary during meetings, and every time I presented an idea, his expression tightened as if he tasted something bitter. The whole office admired him, the successful entrepreneur, the visionary leader who pulled the company out of bankruptcy a few years earlier. But I saw something else. Beneath the charm, behind the polite smile, was a simmering resentment I didn't understand fully at first, until Lily told me the whole story. One night, while the city lights blinked outside our apartment window, she sat beside me with her knees pulled close and her voice shaking slightly. She told me Adrian wasn't just an ex. He was the kind of relationship that leaves emotional bruises long after it's over. He was controlling, unpredictable, and painfully manipulative. She told me she spent months convincing herself she deserved better before she finally walked away, and as she spoke, I held her hand tighter than ever, promising myself silently that history wouldn't repeat itself, not while I existed on this earth. But as fate would have it, history doesn't need an open invitation to knock on your door. Things began changing at work in ways so subtle, at first I thought I was imagining them. Adrian started calling me in for unnecessary late evening reviews, questioning my judgment, doubting my abilities, pushing me harder than any other employee. And it wasn't the challenging kind of push mentors give. It was the pressure designed to suffocate. He assigned me impossible deadlines and gave me projects others should have handled. I kept telling myself to endure, to stay silent, because Lily and I needed this job. I didn't want her to worry. I didn't want her to relive the fear she had escaped. But everything changed the night he called me into his office after everyone else had left. The lights were dim, the city outside was a blur of headlights, and his voice held a coldness that felt strangely personal. He told me he knew exactly who I was. He knew I was dating Lily. And he suggested, without ever saying it directly, that maybe she wasn't with the right man. That maybe she needed someone who understood her better, someone like him. The implication cut through me so sharply I could barely breathe. But I kept my composure, thanked him stiffly, and left his office with trembling hands. I drove home that night feeling like the walls were closing in. Lily noticed something was wrong immediately, but I forced a smile, trying to shield her from the storm brewing behind me. But you can't hide emotional hurricanes forever. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Adrian assigned me a major project with a 48-hour deadline that would normally require a team of 6. I stayed awake for nearly 2 days straight, fueled by caffeine and fear, because failure meant losing everything. My job, my stability, my ability to provide for the life Lily and I dreamed of. On the second night, exhausted and hollow, I made a mistake. A small one, but one Adrian used like a weapon. He humiliated me in front of the entire team. His words cut deep, tearing apart my confidence piece by piece. And while everyone else watched silently, I felt something break inside me. Not anger, not yet, but something heavier, the weight of being powerless. That night when I got home, Lily took one look at me and burst into tears. Not because of what I told her, I hadn't even spoken yet, but because she could see it, the exhaustion, the humiliation, the emotional wounds. I finally broke down and told her everything, every insult, every subtle jab, every late-night review, every attempt to undermine me, every reminder that he was still haunting her life even after she escaped him. She sat quietly for a long time, tears glistening on her cheeks. Then, with a trembling voice, she told me something that shattered me completely. She said she felt guilty. Guilty that her past was hurting me. Guilty that loving her meant fighting someone she thought she left behind. And I remember grabbing her hands and telling her, with every ounce of sincerity I had left, that none of this was her fault. That loving her wasn't a burden. That she wasn't a burden. That I wasn't going anywhere. But words don't always change reality, and reality was catching up fast. The next morning, I made a decision that terrified me more than anything. I requested a private meeting with Adrian. When I stepped into his office, he leaned back in his chair with the smug confidence of someone convinced he had already won. But I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to argue. I simply told him, calmly but firmly, that his behavior toward me was unprofessional, targeted, and personal, and that it needed to stop. I told him I respected the company, respected the team, and wanted to contribute, but I wouldn't tolerate harassment. His smile vanished instantly. He stood up. That perfect corporate mask slipped for a split second. And beneath it, I saw something chilling. Insecurity, jealousy, and a lingering obsession he had never truly let go of. He ended the meeting by saying he'd consider my concerns, but his tone made it clear he wasn't planning anything good. And I was right. Over the next week, my access to certain files mysteriously got revoked. Emails I never sent appeared in company threads with my name on them. Tasks I had completed were marked incomplete. It felt like drowning in slow motion. I documented everything, but the fear grew. I was terrified I'd get fired, and Lily would blame herself again. But sometimes, the darkest moments lead to unexpected turning points. One late afternoon after most employees had left, I was in the conference room, gathering documents, when I overheard two coworkers talking in the hallway. They were discussing Adrian, specifically how HR had been receiving complaints about him for months, how several employees were too afraid to come forward because he held their careers hostage, how his perfect CEO image was only skin deep. That was the moment something powerful ignited inside me. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't powerless. The next day, I requested a confidential meeting with HR. I brought the evidence I had collected, every questionable email, every altered file, every timestamp, and every description of his behavior toward me. And for the first time since starting the job, someone listened without judgment. A formal investigation began quietly. The office atmosphere shifted almost instantly. Adrian walked through the halls with his usual confidence, but there was something uneasy in his eyes. He sensed the walls closing in. During the investigation, several current and former employees came forward with their own stories. Stories far worse than mine. Stories of manipulation, intimidation, retaliation. Stories that painted a picture of a man whose charisma masked a toxic hunger for control. The day everything unraveled was surreal. Adrian was called into a meeting with the board. He walked past my desk, his eyes locking onto mine one final time, and for the first time, I didn't look away. I stared back, not with anger, but with a quiet strength I didn't know I had earned. By the end of the day, the email went out. Adrian Cole was removed from his position, effective immediately. I sat at my desk staring at the screen, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks, air filling my lungs freely. That evening at home, Lily hugged me so tightly I could feel her heartbeat against my chest. She whispered that she was proud of me, that I had faced the very man who once made her feel small and powerless, and I didn't let him break me. And in that moment, everything, every tear, every sleepless night, every doubt, suddenly felt meaningful. Because we didn't just survive, we grew. As months passed, the office flourished under new leadership, healthier leadership. I was promoted to a role that recognized my dedication instead of exploiting it. And Lily began healing in ways I had never seen before. It was like watching the sunrise after a long, cold night. We learned something incredibly important through all of this, that love isn't just about romance or sweetness. Love is resilience. Love is standing together in storms. Love is choosing each other even when the world tries to shake you apart. And if you're watching this right now, I hope you feel that strength too. The strength to stand up for yourself, to fight for your peace, to protect the people who matter, and to believe that no darkness can last forever. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us reach more souls who need stories like this. Before we end, tell us in the comments what part of this story moved you the most. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay kind, and never forget, your story matters too.